Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and today we are generously joined by Mr. Kari Kallonen, who is the author of a couple of books on Lauri Törni, who is a incredibly famous Finnish fighter, Finnish soldier, whom the two places you'll most likely recognize him from. One would be the Sabaton song "Soldier of Three Armies," because Torni was actually at various times a member of the Finnish army, the German army, and the American army, and got combat awards from all three. But you may also recognize him, perhaps without knowing it, from the movie Green Berets with John Wayne, which is based on a book by Robin Moore called The Green Berets, which is in large part based on Larry Thorne, because this gentleman was born in Viipuri,
Yes.
in Finland, in 1919, ended up serving with the Finnish army and then the German army and then the Finnish army again, and then emigrated to the United States and joined the US Army, and ended up dying in Vietnam during the Vietnam War, fighting as part of American Special Forces.
Yes, you got it exactly right.
That's the basic overview. And what we have here today is, in fact, none other than Torni's personal Swedish K, recovered from the site of his helicopter crash in, well, not in Vietnam, but in Laos.
No, it was Vietnam.
Vietnam? Okay. A mission to Laos that...
Yeah, it went to Laos and then they came back to Vietnam, and that's where the crash site was.
Okay. So today is going to be the first of a two-part video discussing the history of who this man was and what he did. And we have the true expert here to help talk us through that.
I thought it'd be really cool to put together some art commemorating Torni's Finnish-American roots. So, in collaboration with Varusteleka and with the permission of the Torni estate, we put together a cool piece of artwork here showing Torni in the Winter War with a Suomi alongside Thorne in the Vietnam War with an M16. So if you'd like to get your hands on one of these shirts, we went with something of a lower profile, plain black shirt with a sleeve emblem on it. We have those available at Varusteleka as both shirts and patches, and in fact, the first 100 orders for shirts will get one of the patches for free. So, links in the description, check it out.
Today we're going to talk about everything from when he was born through the end of World War II. So he fought in the Continuation War, he fought in the Winter War, but the story starts in Viipuri in 1919.
Yes.
What can you tell us about his childhood and upbringing?
Well, the upbringing was they had a Christian family, and Larry Thorne was a Boy Scout when he was young, and he had two kid sisters, and he was a good big brother for them. I've talked with both of the sisters, and very reliable, a little bit wild maybe, and a little bit stubborn, but they speak very highly about their brothers.
Okay, and we should say, before we get any further, you just called him Larry Thorne.
Yes.
And I am in attempting to call him Lauri Törni. What's the deal with two different names?
Well, when he was born Lauri Törni, but when he got to America and joined the U.S. Army, he changed his name to Larry Thorne. Actually, he pronounced his name Larry Thorne, but most common way is to say Larry Thorne. Everybody knows him by that name.
Okay, yeah, the anglicized spelling is Thorne, which we would all look at and say, oh, that's Thorne.
So. Yes.
All right, so when does he first join the military?
Well, in Finland, young men had to go to the army with some expectations, but not many. It was before the Winter War, which started in 1939. So Thorne got out from the army and was assigned the next day again, because we knew that Russia is going to attack Finland. So he took part to the Winter War, and he was a sergeant there, a corporal and a sergeant, and was not really famous then, but that's when started the legends about him. The first thing is that his commander, Major Arnio, asked volunteers to take contact to the next base.
Okay, like a messenger.
And Thorne was a volunteer, and he got to the next base, and the Finnish guards didn't notice him. So I was wondering, where did this guy from? We got to change our routines. So that's what was the first thing. And that's how it started. And Arnio was his commander later too, and knows this is a good guy. And so he got more operations.
Okay. So he would have been 20 years old when the Winter War started.
Yes.
Pretty much prime age for someone going into a soldiering career.
Yes, but also when you think that you're spending 5 years when you're 20 in the war, it does affect on you somehow.
It must, certainly. So he goes into the war, I assume, as basically a private when he first joins up.
Yes.
And he's been promoted to the rank of standard sergeant. I don't know my Finnish army ranks that well.
Well, first there's a corporal, then there's called alikersantti. You can't really translate it. It's between corporal and sergeant.
Okay.
And he was that in the Winter War. And then because he was proved to have some skills for military, he was sent to the officer school. So when the peace came, he was there in the officer school, and then he was a second lieutenant and joined the army and spent the summer there, summer 1940. War wasn't on that time, but he was in the army.
Okay. For those of you who aren't intimately familiar with the Winter War, it's important to recognize that the whole war only lasted between 3 and 4 months.
105 days.
105 days. So there's not a whole lot of time in there to establish, to frankly do a whole lot. It sounds like he got promoted quite quickly for such a short period of time.
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
It's not exceptional, but it's not common either.
Okay. So the Winter War ends in March 13th of 1940. And at that point, he is in officer school, or he comes back into the army after the armistice?
He's in officer school.
Okay. And what happens after the war ends?
The war ended and he stayed in the army for a while, but then in 1941, Finland was trying to get help from abroad. In the Winter War, we tried to get help from England, France, US. We got some help, but not enough, and we lost a lot of country. Larry Thorne lost his hometown, Viipuri, Viborg. So that was a big thing about him.
Okay.
And the one country that wanted to help us was Germany. So it was like choosing between two bad decisions. Do you want Stalin or do you want Hitler?
Right. There's no good option, but
No.
one of them did already attack, so
Yeah.
maybe you try the other one this time?
So we asked Hitler, okay, do you give us weapons so we can fight the Russians and take the land back that we lost? And they did. And they wanted to have, for security, some Finnish forces in the German army. So we sent 1,400 volunteers there, and Larry Thorne was one of them.
Okay.
But actually, he was only there for 7 weeks training. I don't know if he even ever shot with a gun. He was there at the training camp, maybe kick some stones at the practice field. And then there were too many officers there, so he asked, hey, can I go back to Finland? They're starting a war, a new continuation war, and I want to be there. So they said, okay, there's 16 officers, you can go back to Finland. So Thorne was only 7 weeks in Germany and frankly did nothing there at that time.
A lot has been made in some circles about the fact that when he gets there, he is assigned a rank in the Waffen-SS, and there's a picture of him in a full German uniform.
Yes, with a hat and a skull.
Yeah, induction into the organization. But yeah, he doesn't end up actually ever. Well, he does fight in the German military, sort of, a little bit later.
Yes,
but
1945.
Let's hold off on that. So the continuation war is launched, again, if I remember correctly, essentially in coordination with the German invasion of Russia.
Yes.
And for Finland, it is seen as an opportunity to retake the land that was lost by treaty at the end of the Winter War, which would include the town of, in Finnish, Viipuri, or in Russian, Viborg, which is where Torni was born.
Yes.
So he comes back from Germany, re-enlists in the Finnish military, or would he already still, I guess he would still have been in the Finnish army?
Yes, when these men went to Germany, it was not official, but it was approved.
Okay.
So they didn't have to sign out. So So he came back to Finland and heard about the one detachment where he wanted to join. So he started chasing the detachment and joined it and was in the war.
Okay. What sort of detachment was that?
It was based with, they were traveling with light tanks, not heavy fighting tanks, but light tanks. And in the 41, we didn't have really good tanks in Finland. And so he was leading one of those groups then.
Okay. So he would have been a second lieutenant at that point still?
Yes.
In command of a detachment?
Mm.
Okay. Now, eventually, in the continuation war, he ends up leading that unit,
Yes.
Detachment Torni. How does that come about, and what do they do?
Well, after the war started, Törni got some missions. The Major Arnio, who was his commander in the Winter War, knew him, so he sent Törni and some men to some secret missions behind enemy lines, capturing a prisoner and some other things, and he did those successfully. So finally, they thought that this is such a let's say well-trained man who had a talent for military things. So he was giving his own detachment then, Detachment Thorne, and those people who joined that detachment, they were volunteers.
Okay.
Thorne himself said that you can come here and you can leave us, but they trained hard. They had better food. They had training tracks where they were sharpshooting and climbing and running, and they used to have stones in their backpack when they were running, so they were in a good condition. And wherever you needed help, where there was a tough spot, they said the Thorne detachment there.
He was a fixer.
Yes. And
okay.
So his reputation was very good in the continuation war.
Okay, yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, so it's really, it's the continuation war where his name becomes known.
Yes.
Are there any particular, like, specific operations from the continuation war that are really well known or well documented? Like, we know about a couple of his very specific missions for the U.S. Army later on. Was there anything like that?
Well, yes, he was given a mission to go behind enemy lines with a small group, and though they had little boats, they sailed over, rowed over the lake, and then they spent there tracking what the traffic is like, and they were supposed to have prisoners, and they took them, and they took some maps, and they took some correspondence and stuff like that, and came back here. They had to fight there because there were a couple of army trucks coming there full with people, and a small group of Thorne, well, let's say, by the records, they managed to eliminate almost everybody. It was a violent thing, very bloody, and there's a report left of that thing, and that's quite a famous one. And of course, later when he had more operations, he was awarded the highest Finnish military medal, the Mannerheim Cross.
I was wondering when we would get to that.
Yes. Oh, so that's a medal that can be given to a normal soldier or a general. And Larry Thorne was a lieutenant when he got his.
Okay. It is essentially the Finnish equivalent of our Congressional Medal of Honor, if I understand it correctly. Okay. And at some point during this period, he's also awarded the Iron Cross by the German army.
Yes, but he didn't really have anything to do with the Germans when he was fighting in Finland. Germans just happened to be close to his detachments, and probably they did some operation, destroyed some enemy troops that the Germans were afraid of or thought they might attack them. So they thought, okay, this guy helped them out. But he didn't have any connections with the Germans while he was in the Finnish army.
Okay. That sounds like what he was doing was kind of what we would think of as special forces today. A small detachment doing high-risk, unorthodox operations.
Yes.
Capturing intelligence.
Yes. Now, afterwards, when we know what has happened, that's kind of a path that was leading to that.
Spoiler. Okay, so he continues to fight through the continuation war. And at some point, he goes back to the German army. But I suppose that would be after the treaty at the end of the Continuation War?
Yes. His second in command in Thorne detachment was Holger Pitkänen. And the Holger Pitkänen's sister had a husband who died in Lapland, in the Lapland War, and the Germans shot him. So these guys got angry. So Thorne and Pitkänen went to the commander and said, "Okay, our group is going to fight against the Germans in Lapland." But the commander said, "No, you fought enough. You're not going there."
Okay, just to interlude for a moment. For those of you who aren't familiar, the Lapland War comes after the end of the Continuation War. Finland makes a peace treaty with Russia, and one of the requirements of that treaty is the Finns have to kick out all of the German soldiers who are still in Finland.
Yes.
Which results in an undeclared but very real war in the very north of Finland of the Finns versus the Germans, called the Lapland War. So it's by far the shortest and the smallest of the three. We had one World War II. Finland had three of them, essentially.
Yes. First, it was not a real war. Finns thought that, okay, you just back up, go to Norway, and we follow you. And we're not trying to fight very much because both of the countries wanted to save lives of their own soldiers. But the Russians were not happy. They were saying that, okay, you got to fight them, you got to catch them, you got to kill them. So then started the real war. And there were real fights there, and that was till the April 1945, and that's when the last German was out from Finland and went to Norway.
Okay, so Torni, of course, volunteers to go fight there, but isn't allowed to. What does he do instead?
Well, for a while he thought that maybe he could do some normal jobs. He worked as an electrician, but was not really happy with that because, well, he was a war hero, had a lot of action happening in his youth, so that profession was not the one he really wanted. So there was one long-range patrol guy said that, hey, I know these people, they are bringing Finnish soldiers to Germany to teach them guerrilla warfare. So if Russia invades Finland, you'll be trained there and you can come back and fight the Russians again.
Okay.
And also we had this called weapon hiding project here. A lot of Finnish officers were hiding weapons in case Russia would invade whole Finland, so we could fight them, have a guerrilla war against them.
There was a peace treaty between the two countries, but I think a lot of people expected that Russia was going to occupy Finland in much the same way that they did occupy much of the rest of Eastern and Central Europe after World War II, or if not occupy it, practically speaking, dominate the country, station troops, and of course Finns didn't want that.
Yes. We couldn't trust the Russians that time. I don't know if we can trust them now, but definitely not that time.
All right, so he goes to Germany for guerrilla warfare training?
Yes, and he was trained there, and then the guy who was taking care of the operation, Alexander Sellarius, told Thorne, yeah, you gotta go back to Finland and do sabotage against the Finnish government. And Thorne said, no, I'm not gonna fight against Finland. Well, in German army, you should obey the rule.
So why would he be sabotaging the Finnish government?
Well, I think some Germans thought that they still have a chance and they're trying to do a revolution or something like that. But frankly, in Finland, there were not many Nazis. They would all fit in a bus, approximately. So there was no chance for that.
Okay.
But they thought they'd try to do something, and thought Thorne might do something, and he didn't want to do it. Said, I'm not going to raise my hand against Finns.
Okay. And what's the punishment for that?
The punishment was that he should go and fight the Russians. And Sellarius didn't realize that Thorne didn't take that as a punishment. So he was happy with that. So he got a uniform, he got a group of soldiers, and he was fighting the Russians. So from the west, Americans were coming, from the east were Russians coming, and in the middle there was Thorne and his group. and they were fighting against the Russians by a airfield, and the Americans came there. They say that the Americans even took care of the wounded soldiers that Thorne had. There's no written record about it, so that's probably true, but
Okay.
not confirmed. And when Thorne wanted to surrender to the Americans, because he said that he wanted to join the Western Army, definitely not the Russian Army.
I mean, just clear, the German army is not going to be around much longer.
No,
And
no.
if your choice now is Russia or the United States, that's an easier choice.
Yes. But the Americans said, hey, hold on, there's going to be more troops coming. And when there were enough Americans, then they let Thorne surrender to them.
Okay.
But the area was controlled by the British, so Thorne was handed over to the British forces. And they had some kind of a prison camp, a large camp with thousands of people. But, well, let's say they didn't have good guards there, not good fences. So just one day, Thorne and his friends just walked out from there, took alias names, and traveled back to Finland and said, oh, we've been working in Lapland and now we're coming back. And didn't tell anybody that they've been in Germany. And that was okay for a while.
Okay. But not forever.
No, the Red State Police did follow Thorne for a while, and they had some other information. And finally, he was sentenced to prison because he fought with a German uniform, even though Germany and Finland never declared war against each other, but still, actually, there was a war. And he did cross the border without a passport, so there are reasons. So he was sentenced, but finally the president of Finland pardoned him, and he got out.
He escaped from prison once or twice in the meantime,
Oh,
didn't
yes, he did. Yes.
He's not an easy guy to lock up.
No, and that time, like in a Thorne detachment, there were a couple of guys who had been in prison, a couple of guys who were police, some workers, some farmers. So there were some police, I know their name, helped Thorne to escape from the prison.
Okay.
That's a fact.
It's interesting. This was a highly politicized sort of environment where the Finnish government was doing this delicate balancing act to maintain their own national sovereignty by supplicating the Russians enough to stay independent, but you couldn't, if you were too pro-Russian, then a lot of the Finnish population would have a problem with it. But if you were not pro-Russian enough, the Russian government, there was a risk of the Russian government coming in and ousting the government and putting their own government in place. And it sounds like Torni, with his Mannerheim Cross, made a really good example to be made in public.
Yes. The sentence was not that political, I think, but he was a good example. He was a well-known war hero, so they wanted to have an example, because there's a lot of other men who did the same thing as he did, went to the German side, but were never convicted.
Okay.
So why did he was? Because of his fame? Maybe.
If you let someone famous get away with it,
yeah,
other people might be more willing to take the risk.
Yeah, and that's big headlines. If you're nobody, that's no headlines.
Yeah. So when is he ultimately pardoned and released from, let out of prison deliberately instead of just leaving on his own accord?
That was by Christmas 1948.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what does he do then? Do you try to go back to civilian life?
Well, he did for a while, but he heard that after the war, there were like almost 20 Finnish officers had moved to United States and joined the U.S. Army, and he heard that there's a possibility to join the U.S. Army if he just gets there.
Okay.
So he went to Sweden. Went to Sweden with his friend and met a girl there, and was happy there for a year almost. But then thought that he didn't have a really good job there, and he couldn't support the family. He was engaged with the girl, Maria Kops, and said that okay, he has to go to United States to get a profession, and when everything is right, he'll call the girl and they'll build a family in the United States and live there happily ever after.
Okay. And I think that's probably where we will wrap up today's video, our first installment on Larry Thorne, who is about to become Larry Thorne in the United States. Your book about him is in Finnish.
Yes.
And I suspect anyone in Finland who's watching this channel probably already knows about it. Is there a particularly good reference you can recommend in English for people?
Well, there's one book that is in English. It's a good friend of mine, J. Michael Cleverley, who was a diplomat in Finland, has written a story of Larry Thorne. That was sometime in 2003, I think, when it came out, but it's still pretty accurate.
Okay. All right. Well, I will include a link to that down in the description text if you're interested in it. And stay tuned for our second installment where we're going to talk about Lauri Törni becoming Larry Thorne, joining the U.S. Army, and taking that Swedish K into combat. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Thanks for watching.